Cool. Hey guys, I am Lucy Hoffman. I'm one of the co-founders of Carry First. I'm originally from the US, grew up just outside of New York, but moved down to South Africa in 2012. And people ask me kind of why the move. Was it personal, professional, school? And really all I knew is that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial and I wanted to live abroad. And that was it. And I couldn't speak any other languages. So I took a leap of faith, moved to South Africa, and started my entrepreneurial journey. For the past 10 years, I've been working with founders across a variety of different industries. So I've worked in finance, healthcare, education, and have never actually worked in mobile gaming or technology prior to founding Carry First. My co-founder Cordell called me up a couple years ago and basically just pitched me on the idea that there is a massive opportunity to serve the first generation of people with smartphones across the continent, and that there are very few sort of larger international players focused on this opportunity. And we started doing some research, and this is again kind of as outsiders to the gaming industry, and just realized that it was a massive, dynamic, fun industry that would give us the ability to access millions of smartphone from the first time. And we always said when like somebody goes and buys a smartphone for the first time, it's not to check the weather, right? And you look at what gets funded and it's often like utilities. But when people buy a phone, it's usually to be entertained and to connect with their loved ones. And mobile gaming is actually serving as the vehicle for both of those things globally. And so we wanted to see how we could really serve consumers here. And there were always like a few challenges that we knew were kind of that we'd have to tackle, right? We knew that data was expensive. So the really popular, massive games that you've seen do really well globally might not have as much success on the continent. And we knew payments was a big issue, right? People weren't making money in Africa, whether they were local developers or international guys. And so we started kind of racking our heads around that. But really this was mid 2018 and we were again, like didn't come from gaming. We're looking around for ideas. And I guess we had a lot of success with the first idea we had, which was to take this live trivia game concept that in mid 2018 was at its peak. These were like the days that HQ was on fire. This was before all of the negative press. But HQ basically created this genre of live trivia game that took your daily night show that we've been watching on TV for generations and turned it into something you could play from your phone and see if you could actually win prizes. So that was a viral success in the US and then across Europe. And we had the idea, as did a few others, to actually do the first one designed for African consumers. So we focused on localizing content. We focused on making the app really small. So it was less than 10 megabytes, which for our users was really important. And just on what it required to actually market this game in first Nigeria, but then Kenya and South Africa. We had a lot of success on the marketing side. We acquired 1 million users in 9 months, which was awesome. We had, at our peak, we had over 500,000 monthly active users. And for us, it was really a cool demonstration that there was we started this company because we knew that there were gamers across the continent that weren't being served. And so for our first game to have that sort of market success was awesome. I would say that's kind of the easy one to point to because there are really big numbers associated with it, but something I'm potentially even more proud of, and it may not be a success yet. So, there's still a lot of work to do is on the back of this, we realized that actually Carry First, we're not the best game developers in the world, but one of the things we have figured out is how to market and monetize content. And so on the back of trivia and our success last year, raised some money, closed a seed round earlier this year, and really have transitioned to becoming a publisher, a gaming publisher. which means we go and we find great games that exist that are like 90% of the way there and help complete the game, get it ready for the market, think about sort of how to balance the economy or create an economy so that, you know, we can all make a living from the things that we love doing, and then go out and market it, you know, fund all of the user acquisition, scale it across multiple geos, and importantly, we're building some technology to help users pay for content on the continent. And so there, you know, one of our first deals that we signed is with a local game developer. And when I say local, I mean within Africa, which I wouldn't say is they're like around the corner, but the first team that we're working with is Kene Games based in Ethiopia. Really talented guys who are the masterminds behind Kukulu, and are working with them on their sort of second big game, Gabetta. And really, as a publisher, to be able to work with such high quality developers is something I'm super proud of. And I'm really excited because I think their game is based on the ancient game of Mancala, which is a game that's played across the continent and called all sorts of different things. Oyo, Io, and there are a few others that I can't even pronounce. And I'm really excited because I think it has the potential to be a new type of puzzle game that the world hasn't seen. And I think it's going to do really well internationally. So excited to work with this team, excited to help them think about how to make the most of this new game, and see how it does on the worldwide stage. So yeah, that's me, Carrie First, and our soon-to-be success story. Our seed round was $2.5 million, which we closed on in the beginning of this year. And prior to that, we had raised $1.5 million. So we have raised $4 million to date to fund this. I think what's really exciting is it is a lot of money. And what's really exciting is that because we've made this reposition to publisher, that funding gets to go towards scaling lots of different titles, not just ideas that we have, but we're able to fund the, you know, babies and the creations of other studios who've been toiling at this and haven't been able to find finance, right? And this gives us sort of a vehicle to help them, right? Help local studios actually be able to scale their product, and hopefully not just across the continent, but internationally as well.
Hi there, my name is Louis. I'm the CEO and creative director at Colourful Always Games, and I'm probably here to talk to you about a video game called Buttfighter, because that is possibly why I was called to be on this panel. So Buttfighter was born out of a different game called Jenga, which I still intend to finish, which is a point-and-click adventure game, which is basically very kind of autobiographical about being a gamer approaching 40 and being a little bit confused and overwhelmed by how everything is now this big online multiplayer focus, and, you know, kind of remembering the days of having one game for one whole holiday that you get to conquer, and, you know, that was your thing. And in my case, it used to be a lot of old school LucasArts and Sierra games. So the game actually got a lot of traction, talking about Jenga now, and we got to go to Gamescom and a few other conferences, and there was a lot of hype. And then we made the bold decision to go the crowdfunding route. So my personal opinion was like, cool, looking at the trends of other point-and-click titles out there, we should ask for $40,000, because that is what is getting funded in our genre. It isn't necessarily how much money you think you deserve, or how much money you know, it's going to take you to make the game. That's what people were willing to back. So we went for $140,000 because that's what the publisher said we should do. So reluctantly, I got outvoted, and we went on to reach $43,000, which unfortunately is a bit short. So in the production break of the game, because obviously after a failed crowdfunding campaign, you feel a bit bad and you don't want to think about it for a while. So I figured, you know what, I've been making this game for the last 3 odd years. Let me jump on something else very quickly, which I assumed would be a quick win, which was what would happen if Double Dragon would be based in 4-ways, because it would be hysterical if you put Norwegian dialogue on a game like Double Dragon. So just in case younger viewers, listeners out there is not aware of the concept of Double Dragon is a game where 1 or 2 brothers, a blue one and a red one, emerge from a Lamborghini roaring garage after a girl in a short skirt and a perm gets punched in the stomach by a machine gun wielding man and gets carted off, and then you indiscriminately beat the crap out of everyone you encounter until you get to the end, beat up machine gun man with permed girlfriend with short pink skirt, hanging on the wall, and then you have to fight each other to see who gets to get with her. And obviously that game probably won't fly today. So we figured, you know what this game needs? This game needs 4-ways based dialogue, or the butt, the bro, the jock kind of character. So what if a game like Double Dragon was voiced by a South African jock, or as we call him, the butt? And it kind of started off as like a small thing. We would just do like a 1-level demo, Freudian slip, and just chuck it on the internet, validate ourselves. We're like, people like us maybe. And then, I would go back and make the point-and-click adventure game, which probably shouldn't have been crowdfunded in the first place. Then it became quite popular because it was something that people identified with. I guess that in a lot of online circles, it plugged into the zeitgeist quite easily and quickly. Whenever there was a fight in any bar anywhere in the country, people would start tagging us in, and a lot of natural organic marketing started, kind of spinning around our brand, Buttfighter. And yes, the name is very derivative and it's on the nose on purpose. So then we decided, okay, well, maybe this is worth a shot to do the whole game. And like a lot of people that are wise and do a lot of forward thinking, I got the first programmer I could find, phoned my mate who was very good at the 4-ways thing. I phoned him first, by the way, just to get him on board, and he loved the idea. I have to step back. Obviously, the content that we made was created before the phone calls happened. And then the game was born, and we gave ourselves 12 months to execute it. And we formed a whole business around hype. Because, much like Lucy said earlier on, sometimes you've got to take a chance on yourself. And we figured, the internet's already kind of given us the old thumbs up to pursue this endeavor. So we did it. And none of us has made a game to completion before, as far as I know. But we thought, hey, it would be a good laugh. And the insight of bros in a beat 'em up 2D scrolling game resonated. So let's do this thing. And instead of being afraid of the game being South African, we thought, we are just going to smash the South African theme. We're just going to go, SWOT analysis be damned. We are going to make a South African game and not apologize for it at all. And we've had some people, saying like, oh, well, your game is going to miss out on a bigger audience because you are centralizing your theme. And we figured the theme is what makes it fun. And if we really please 10,000 people, then, job done. Because we actually went, okay, let's try and put the business around this thing that we've made. It was never really meant to be a product, but now it is. And essentially 18 painful months later, we released a video game. And we still have a lot of questions as to what we could have done better. And, how big it could have gotten if we knew these things beforehand. But the joy of it is learning as you go along. I don't really know what else to say about that. I guess questions from other folks or input or, jostling between, our shared experience would be the next step in this conversation. So that's all I got to say about Buttfighter, and I guess Django as well as a consequence.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aram Tawia, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Latik Arts, which is a video game development company, and we are in Ghana and Kenya. My co-founder is Wesley Kirinya, who runs the Kenyan office. Yeah, so basically Latik Arts was started in 2009 officially, but personally I've been a gamer all my life. I started very young, back in junior high school. And prior to that, I was a comic addict geek from my primary school. Grew up with Superman, Batman, and all these cool comic characters. I wanted so much to be like Superman when I was in, I think, grade 3. So I was there writing stories, and my dad was an art professor, so he was the one doing the illustrations for me when I'll force him to do those things. It transformed into being the first inventor, like to build a spaceship, robots, and all that. So all these cool things fascinated me a lot when I was growing up. So fast forward to junior high school, I started writing my own stories and drawing comics. And there was a comic that I had partnered my friends to do called Sword of Sygos. And that was a fantasy story I came up with. So Sword of Sygos was what was a comic. When I made Sword of Sygos, I had Marvel comics, DC, Superman, and all that. And in those comics, I saw that they had advertised video games in those comics, right? So Superman had its comic, its game on Super Nintendo that we were all playing then. So I wanted to have those advertisements in my comics as well. And I stumbled on a programming language, blue screen, called QBasic, which became my love for the next 10 years since junior high school. I built so many video games in QBasic for the comics that we made then. So fast forward to university, gaming was still part of my ambition. So I saw a school as a safe place. And when I was making these comics, some of the thoughts were like, we were just trying to draw foreign characters, fantasized in our own world, though we found ourselves in Africa, right? Sort of Sygos was set in Rome just because I saw Hercules and all that. Thor, I knew more about Thor just because I saw him as part of the Avengers and all that. So fast forward to the university, I wanted to try out a full, complete 3D game using one of the old comic books and games that I had made. So I raided Sort of Sygos in the university. So into 3D, which became the first 3D game to be made from my university, and if not in Ghana, probably then. That was in 2006. So fast forward to 2007, I read in the local newspapers that the first 3D game has been made in Africa, and it wasn't me. It was a guy called Wesley Kirinya who made a game called Adventures of Nyangi from Kenya. So I sought that guy out online, and fast forward to 2009, we started Latik Arts together. I met him and we had a bit of fight. And then the first success story was to work in cooperation with Wesley, and we came up with Latik Arts with the ambition to, just create more African games and have our representation in modern formats that we all love so much. So Latik Arts was born in 2009 with a seed investment. We closed a seed investment of $100,000 from Meltwater. So Wesley flew down to Ghana to join me here, and we did some work. Then he went back to Kenya, I think, after 2 months, just to kickstart from there. So we made a first game called iWarrior. iWarrior was an iOS game which was released in 2009. I could say it was one of the first iOS games to be made from the sub-Saharan Africa. For South Africa and North Africa, we knew, you guys had some gaming culture going, though you have the challenges in your own way. But for the sub-region, it's something of a really big deal, being self-taught game designers. So iWarrior game made some strides. They gave us the big exposure on BBC, CNN, and all that. And fast forward to 2012, we started the Africa's Legends series, which was our superhero franchise now. And one of the interesting things and the successes of Africa's Legends is that it's a franchise, or it's a superhero group, just like Justice League, which brings together all superheroes from different parts of the continent, loosely tied to historic figures. So just like how Thor is loosely tied to the Nordic god of thunder, Thor, we also have the vision to represent Africa in a very cool way, where people will be genuinely excited about to interact with these characters. So how my passion started, games, comics, we also started that. We started building digital comics around the cool characters that carried the stories, and then we made games for those stories. And this was from first we started with just games, and we realized that the games were not resonate. It was harder to sell the games directly and tell the stories about these game characters. So if we brought in comics and diversify, we have two product lines. One carries the cool characters and the cool stories. Then we make these games for them. And that also brought a success story where we've been able to present Africa in a cool format and also resonated globally. And I think 2013, we gave our first GDC talk in San Francisco about the emerging landscape of African game development. And this Africa's Legend has gone on to, in different comic issues, as well as the game itself also being upgraded into a new form now, which is going to go cross-platform, and we are really excited about it, building that now. So some of the challenges that we had was that though we had seed funding, we had to also keep funding the business. The seed funding ran out in 2 years, technically. That's also a whole new story altogether. And we had to now introduce consulting within our business. So we started taking our game technology and doing gamification works with companies. We didn't want to pivot and do other things. So we're doing gamification work. So we work with NGOs who are doing HIV, tree conservation, sexual health, and all that. So we started building games for brands, which also grew very well. And that has been the very revenue generating part of our business. And it's still on now. We are still working with all these renowned companies, which has grown bigger and bigger. And it's giving us really some good insights, because gaming, our efforts also have inspired other game companies on the continent. Like we all that we are speaking here, we know each other one way or the other. There are a lot more game companies who have used our efforts as inspiration to start in Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, globally. So those kind of success stories we are really happy about, and which got us to publish a platform we now call Afro Comics. Because when we made our games, we realized that the channels of deployment, which is Google Play Store, iOS Store, all these channels were all scattered. You make a game or you make a comic, you need to now put it on Comixology, Amazon, and all that. It was all scattered. So we decided, and it was also not accepted or not widely used in this part of Africa. So we came up with a publishing platform. We decided to invest into a publishing platform ourselves we call Afro Comics. And with Afro Comics, we can publish our own comics and third-party comic books, being in comic books, graphic novels, wallpapers, and eventually put the video games through that. And when we built Afro Comics, it's really optimized. We even made it for the S60 device. Like it was Java supported, and now we've scrapped that Java because it's not there anymore. It was SMS supported as well, and it was Android supported. Currently, it's the Android one that we are pushing. And one of the success stories is a partnership with MTN Group globally to Afro comics across all regions that they are in. So these are all small success stories and progress that we've been realizing from the efforts that we've taken in terms of building games on the continent. But the big blocks of challenges are mostly with skill set, culture, distribution, and funding. And with that, we've solved them in all ways. Skill set, because you don't have a lot of game programmers or artists on the continent, on this part of the world. Our mantra has always been using local expertise to make games that compete globally. So when we are making video games, we try as much as possible to use local expertise that can make quality video games globally. Then we solve that through internships. So we have internships that we've organized for a long time. And since 2012, over 350 interns that have passed through our hands. Currently, I just made that internship curriculum into an online course, game development course that I'm running online with a university here. I also used that experience to publish my first book. I published my story as a book in 2016 as like a memoir on gaming on the continent. And I want to encourage all of us to start writing books, because games have come to stay. They'll be in universities, in schools. People need to be reading these success stories, no matter how small they are, not just in these conferences, at these conferences, but we should have them as books that we can give to other people to inspire them. So basically, this is how come Latik Arts how far Latik Arts has come as a strong household and game company. And we are 10 years down the line, we are still increasing and churning out more titles and using games to fix Africa. So yeah, I'll end here, and as we continue, we would have the dialogue more.
So, my name is Ronald Kaima from Uganda, Kampala, and I am one of the co-founders of the company Clan of the Kings, and also the creator of our first game title called Sunjata. So this is our first game. Before gaming, I was actually a comic book artist. Never got any of my actual comic books out. I was always drawing for clients. But drawing comic books is something that I always loved to do. And writing stories, always loved writing stories. I guess something me and Iram have in common. Yeah, so around 2016, I was approached by a friend of mine, one of my business partners called Hans, and he wanted us to do something with what I am able to do with arts and creativity and all that. So we did a whole brainstorming session, and it landed on gaming, which is something I didn't think I would do at that time. I thought I would do it like maybe after a couple more years, after I'd raised a bit of money to put myself in a position to actually create a game. But opportunity came. He asked me, "Can you make a game?" I had no idea, but I said yes. Right? I think it's just like sometimes you just know the opportunity might not come again, and if you're ready, whether you know it or not. So I took the leap of faith, and we started making the game. At first, we looked for people and came to the very shocking and sad reality that there are not that many game developers in Uganda. And that's when I talked to my childhood friend and also business partner as well in the company, Philip, and I said, like, yo, I don't know what we're going to do, right? And we tried communicating with so many people, but was just one of those things, I think. At the moment, there was no one who could actually help us. So we made the decision to actually learn ourselves. So I checked online, I went to YouTube, I saw a lot of tutorials, and I told Philip, I'm like, you know what? I think we can do this ourselves. So we started off with the basic tutorials. We picked an engine, we picked Unreal Engine, and the journey started from there. Very, very long, gruesome, tiring journey. It was, as much as it was probably vexing at that time, it was also quite a good experience. There's that whole thing. I think my whole love for game design was every time when you try to do something and it's not working and it's not working and it's not working, then it finally works. That feeling, I think that's what stuck with me even till today. That feeling when you actually solve, it's kind of like a puzzle. You kind of solve a puzzle and you see it work for the first time. I don't think anything really feels quite as good as that, Yeah, so we picked our title, which is Sunjata, Trumpet of Last Day, and this came from my previous research into African mythology, African history, and it's just something that intrigued me. I grew up reading Spawn, a few Batman comics, but really I think Spawn, Todd McFarlane's art and story writing, that's what really, stuck with me. So all the stories I would write would always have a little dark element to them. But I always feel like that's how you put out your story also is important because of how you want people to feel as they're playing your game. So I always lean to, I guess, more of the dark, or should I say very psychological based storylines, just because I think it's something we all go through, So yeah, so we chose Sunjata, Trumpet of Last Day, which is about a wandering herbalist, also an orphan called Ka Menelik, who is rejected by society because of his few physical features. One of his eye kind of looks like a demon's eye. It is a demon's eye. And a few other things that make people see him as a bad omen. This is something which I took from our past in Uganda, the tribe which I'm from, where at some point twins were regarded as a curse, and that was not good. And then here I have twin brothers, and so when I thought of that, I'm like, it's quite interesting how something which to me right now might be a blessing back then was looked at as a curse. So we chose that kind of feel for our character, just to see how would it have felt to be an outcast back then, and what would he do to kind of change that. It's really about him trying to change his entire his entire essence. He's trying to fit into a society that doesn't want him. And, opportunity presents itself. The world is in danger. No. And he thinks that if he saves enough people, that might change how other people see him. If he becomes the hero, then he won't be treated like the villain anymore. So this is stuff which, we're hoping we can really portray in the game. But anyway, back to development. Development was something else. It's been, I think now we're in our third year. We're in a third year of development. We're currently, until recently, we've been 2 developers, and now we got a bit of funding recently just to help us get a demo ready. we just hired out some work, and also decided to use Reallusion, character creator, iClone, their facial software, which has really helped. And this was just so that we could get to a photorealistic style in our graphics, which is something we chose to do. It is difficult, but it's something we chose to do just to kind of stand out, and also just, I guess, to prove that it can be done from Africa. And yeah, so that's us pretty much in a nutshell. We're making a photorealistic hack and slash African mythology fantasy game, and we just really want to see it get out there.
We stare at each other, in the Zoom call, waiting for somebody to break the ice. But I'll start, and I'll start with Ronald and Aram, and I really hope I got that pronunciation correct. You both sound like you come from, a creative background, and then you transition from creative into business. So as someone who did something pretty similar, where do you find your responsibilities lie more, to run the project creatively or to run the business? Like, do you go like, all right, whoever's dealing with seed funding and paying the rent and whatnot, like, is that going to be, I'm going to find someone to do that and I'm just going to deal with the content? Or is it all about, I'm going to wear all the hats at different times of the day?
Yep. Okay.
All
right.
Aram, you want to go first?
Yep. All right. Yes. I think for me and my co-founder, we started Latik Arts. I have a creative background, but I did computer science, programmer. Starting Latik Arts, we first began in competition. Who was like, he came from Kenya, I'm from Ghana, I'm a better programmer, you're a better game programmer. And that's how we met, right? So we were actually building a business, but we were coding in competition, comparing even codes, fixing each other's codes. And in all that, we were burning cash, right? Until we realized that, hey, look, this is not, the gaming, it gives you that feeling that I'm a game developer, I'm better than, that sort of feeling. At that age, we had that in us, right? So we had to now understand that, hey, this is a business. It's not a matter of who was better than each other. And then we split. So since then, I've been CEO. He's a CTO, and I've not touched code since 2014 or 2015.
So did he win?
Yes, he won. He won. He lost. It is his, and someone has to cater for the business. I had to grow into business. I had to grow into the creative direction for a while before I brought on board a creative director, and I had to now just seeking business, getting revenue to pay the rent, and also giving artistic direction and probably some technical direction. But he does all the architecture. He does all the server maintenance, all the technical intent training. I do the creative intent training, business intent training, and running a game company. So I leave everything technical to him. Now you ask me something, I have it in my mind, but if you want to implement, I direct you to my co-founder to do the implementation.
No, cool.
Yeah, so it took me years to accept the fact that, hey, if you are in a team, leverage the skill set. You don't have to come and code yourself.
Do you know what it sounds like to me, Aaron? It sounds like two guitar players in a band. And first you're just starting to tune. It's like, hey guys, we're here to play together. It's going to be fun. But then, soon the stare down happens and you all start playing a little bit faster. And it's all like, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to show you my chops. I'm going to show you like my skills. And then one day you're just going to go, cool, I'm going to go drum. You do that. Two spiders in a jar, shake it and see what happens.
Exactly.
I think for me, it's more like I tried it. I tried to do both. I tried to do the whole business thing and the development thing, but oh man, you know, it's a bit, for me, I don't know, there's probably people out there who can do it, but I found it a bit too taxing, so I left it all to Philip, you know. And like I always tell people, when someone asks me something that doesn't have to do with development, I'm like, Philip knows everything, go ask him. You know, it's like he's the brain, I am the CPU and keyboard and everything else. But I still check. You know, I didn't walk away completely. Once in a while, you know, we do have meetings where I double check to make sure everything on their end is in order, because, you know, like I think we all know what it's like when you're in the development side. There's all this pressure. Everyone wants to see something, right? No one really cares about the little bugs and fixes that you have to do. People want to see stuff. So the same way they check on me for that, I also just do my small check on, like, hey, you know, have you guys also sorted this, that? But I really just stepped away from it. I think I'm better off just in development. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You get to be the Stan Lee of your business. You know, you get to wear the creative hats. Like, cool. I'll do the cool stuff. I'll be the mascot. I'll be the one on the panels. You know, for business of gaming.
All the spotlight, huh?
Yeah.
And,
Lucy, also I have a tiny question for you as well, because I'm sure that you're going to have, you know, after this conversation, you're going to have a lot of people going, okay, so we heard an amount of money, and this person also said that we're a publisher now. So
Yes.
You're probably going to get a few emails after this conversation goes live. So for the sake of all of those people that will be sending you that email, when somebody wants to get published by Lucy Hoffman and her company.
By Carry First, yes.
What would you look for in that pitch? Like, would it be a case of, hey, I want to see a prototype? Or is it a case of, I want to see a very convincing deck? Is it like Apple, where it's like, I want to see 5 slides? It's called the napkin pitch, basically. Like, if you cannot convince me on a napkin, then I'm not interested. Like, and how much guidance would someone like you bring to the table? Or would it just be a case if you sit back and go, impress me with as few words as possible and with as much content as possible? What are you looking for?
I cannot wait until I have a balance sheet like Apple's, so I can say, give me the napkin pitch, because it's hard to do as a developer, but it's also a ton of risk that you take on if you're Apple. It's just that they have so much money, they can lose a lot. They can lose a lot of times before they start feeling it. At this stage in our development, we're looking for games that are nearly baked. So even beyond prototype stage, these are like games that may even feel completely done to you as a developer, but then you know, maybe you have like a great core game or core game mechanic, but I have no idea how you're going to make money from it. And that's the type of game, that's the type of stage that we'd like to come in and help. And our focus right now is on free-to-play mobile games, to be clear, free-to-play mobile games, and particularly looking at the casual genre, right? So maybe you have a game, but you have no idea how to think about game economy and in-app purchases. You're like, I'm going to monetize through ads. Then you run the numbers and you're like, I'll make $12 this year, right? So we like to get involved at the very end and think about the last mile of development that needs to happen, so that by the time your game gets into the hands of users, you can actually start to see a return. And then we focus on marketing and monetization. But if you're hearing this and you have a game and you're like, I think it's great, I've put it in the hand, you could have even maybe released it in beta mode or in some version on a Play Store. And you're just like, I think it has a lot of promise and want some guidance on how to get there. One of the things that we've started actually doing these limited market tests. So for developers that have a game that they think is like could do really well, but they haven't been able to acquire users. We'll go out and acquire the first 5 to 10,000 users, see how they behave, get some data on your game. You can take it, learn from it. We'll help you think through new features to add. And if it looks really promising, we'll move to a publishing agreement right away. But it's like a no risk option for you to get some feedback on your game. So
you would go
ahead.
Oh,
No, I was just
sorry,
going to get my email, but go ahead with a question.
Oh, sorry. So it sounds like, so if a game is done, but it kind of like the game was well done, but the marketing and the release was undercooked, would you look at games that have already been released and has a lot of potential, but just failed to launch?
100%. That's actually a really interesting one for us.
Okay. Because we had a monetization problem.
Yeah, exactly. Especially that games that have like maybe a really good day one retention. So like people downloaded it, they came back the second day. So there's like something about it that's entertaining and engaging and memorable enough for you to like, when you pick up your phone the next day, to say, oh yeah, that game that I downloaded yesterday, I want to look at it again. Like those games, I think if you can get to solid day one, there's like a lot you can do to 3, 4, 7, and then we can start thinking about how you actually can potentially make money from the game, premium experiences and so on. So yeah, great questions. Thank you. And my email, lucy@carryfirst.com. So I love for people to reach out.